Thank you for coming. It's 9 o'clock, so we'd like to get started. I have a couple of things we want to cover before we start the presentation. Again, thanks for making it out. We appreciate it. So we have George Cordova here. Where's George? He's our recreation chair, so he's going to kind of be the moderator for this meeting. And again, being a village meeting, we're going to follow Robert's Rules of Orders. We have the staff from Williams Architects, including Tom Poulos, Andrew Caputo, and Lauren Grahman. Yes. Is that how you say that? And then we also have our Parks and Rec staff, Gina Racanelli, who's our Assistant Director, and Brian Roche, who handles all the buildings and grounds. Please feel free after the meeting. If you want to ask some questions, we'll be available. So a couple things first off. There's been some questions on how to find the comment cards online. We tweaked the website, so it's right under the community input for the rec facility. So it's pretty easy to find now, and it lists all the information. I believe it goes back to, we have the feasibility study on that, master plan, and then the comment cards. I tested the comment cards out. It's pretty simple. If I can do it, anybody should be able to, because I'm not very good at IT. However, if you're at home and you're watching this, you can certainly go onto the village's website. There will be a QR code that you can also take a picture of, and that'll lead you to the link as well. That comment card, you can click on the comment card, fill it out, save it, and then email it in to either Tom Poulos or myself. Again, we're zooming this meeting, so you can comment in real time and fill out your comment cards then. And also, it's going to be available on the cable access to view and also on YouTube. The deadline to submit all your comment cards will be January 20th. We had our first meeting on the 29th of December, so the deadline for that has come and gone because Williams wanted to gather all that information to be able to present for today. So there's some certain time frames. So today's comments, if they're going to, I think we're going to wait until the 19th to download the rest of the comments, and then Williams will be making a presentation to the board, tentatively scheduled for the 24th. If it gets a little more complicated, it'll be the first board meeting in February, but we're shooting for the 24th, where they'll compile all the information and make that presentation at that board meeting. So there's also been some questions on the feasibility to consider the Iowa Community Center to add on to that, which has been great questions. We did lead a walkthrough through the community center, and if interested, we'll probably be scheduling some time. So if folks want to walk through the community center over at Iowa, we'll be happy to show everybody around. Can't do it on an individual basis, but we'll schedule a few times where people can come and we can lead little groups through the building. So the Williams Architects prior, probably I think it was in 2018, they were asked at one of the Recreation Commission meetings to do a conceptual design to add on to the community center. Did I touch something? Sorry. See, I'm not an IT guy. But anyway. They asked Williams Architects, the Recreation Commission asked Williams Architects to do a conceptual design of adding on over at the community center. So they provided a conceptual design, and at that time it was estimated with a gymnasium and a couple classrooms to be about $12 to $12.5 million. That included some HVAC, but it didn't include, and on the walkthrough that we did yesterday, it did not take into consideration the following. You have to bring that building up to code. So if we start touching everything, we need to redo the electrical. The plumbing is bad. We need to do the plumbing. There's asbestos in the building. I mentioned the roof. The whole roof needs to be repaired. And if we do add on, we would have to move some of the OSLAD grant amenities from the skate park, and we'd need approval from OSLAD to do that. I'm sure they would approve it, but we would have to move a couple of amenities If we don't get approval and we touch that grant stuff, they could ask for that grant money back, which is the amount of, I believe, $239,000. So the feasibility to move or add on to the community center, it can be done. That if that's the direction given, we would do it. However, the village had asked the school district to, if they wanted to buy the Iowa Community Center before they are building their new early childhood center at Jackson. They did an appraisal, and the information that I received, I didn't get anything firsthand. It was just given to me by some previous administration, but to bring that building up to code is $5 million, $4 to $5 million. So to add on and then bring the building up to code, that's going to be roughly, that was, the concept design was a few years ago, and that was 12 to 12 and a half. So based on the 2018 numbers, it was $17 million to add on. We would also lose some parking, so we'd have to have parking on the west side of the building, which would lose our green space. Some of our green space that we use for soccer programs and camps and that type of thing. So that's just some basic information on the community center. Also, we did a little bit of fact finding because it's been brought up about Madison Meadows Recreation Center over at Lombard, and it's a 38,000 square foot facility, basically for athletics only, not for programming. They do have a couple of classrooms in there. There was a school on that site as well, and that building was built in like 57. Ours was built, Iowa Community Center was built in 62. So roughly right now it's about the same age. And the architects that built that Madison Meadows, I asked them why didn't they use that building, and they said it wasn't in any condition to add on to. So take that for what it's worth, but we have the same type of building. So after we do the Williams Architects, we'll do the presentation. We hope and ask that you hold your comments until after the presentation is finished, and then we'll open it up. They will pass out the comment cards for people here to fill out. People can also fill them out again, like I said, on Zoom. They can email them. The more information we get just helps us and helps the board make a determination on what should be done. And then a question that should be posed to everybody with the $10 million grant is how much bang for your buck do you want to get out of that $10 million grant? That's for the board to decide. There's talk about the two facilities. Staff is ready to move forward with either one, whatever direction we're given. The one facility is rather limited in time, and the other one is unlimited as far as usage for the year. So with that, I'll go through some of these slides that was prepared by Williams, and then we'll move forward. So there's a question on doing a survey. The last time around, we did the survey, feasibility study in 2019. It's a statistically valid survey with 410 respondents, and there's 95% degree of confidence with a 5% degree of error. So we do have the information available that we surveyed the residents for 2 years ago. So on question 23, rank the following potential. The highest one was develop a combination aquatic center and recreation center, 51%. The development of indoor facilities, 44%. Building just a new aquatic center, 43%. And focus on existing park and rec facilities, 31%. And then construction of a new outdoor park amenities, 21%. So again, this was from the feasibility study. And then question 9, which 4 of the items listed in question 8 are most important for the Park and Rec to consider when building a new rec center? Multi-purpose sport courts. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can see that. And again, all this information is available online. You can access the feasibility study and look at it at your leisure. But as far as the programming, sport courts, recreation classrooms, senior activities, indoor play space, preschool space, and then stationary cycling, spinning, which is fitness, and then teens. That's about halfway through. So And then again, referring to the feasibility study, question 18, which 3 items listed in question 18 do you think would be most important to include in the design of a new aquatic center for our community? A zero depth pool was number 1. We do have a pool over at Jefferson, and the biggest complaint we have from moms and dads is the baby pool is not attached to the main pool, so it's hard if you have several children at different age groups. It's hard to be in 2 spots at once. Outdoor lap pool lanes, water slide, lazy river, spray pad, and so on. And that's basically pretty much standard for a lot of pools these days. And then with that, I'm going to turn it over to the leaders from Williams, and they can go through the presentation on the findings and what they've will present today is some of the questions that people had from the last meeting. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning, everyone. Glad everybody can make it here. It's good to see that people are very interested in this project and what it means to the village of Villa Park. My name is Tom Polis. I am CEO and principal in charge of this project. I am joined with Laura Gehrman, she's our designer, and Andrew Caputo, our managing architect. And not to be forgotten, Karen Lelios does a lot of our marketing and IT in the background here, helps us get all this information online and out to you all, so you can comment accordingly and we can keep everything transparent. As I noted before, this is our recreation, this is our specialty in our business. We are across the country in sports rec aquatics, and we're honored to be here this morning to continue our relationship and to continue our study findings as it relates to this project. Greg mentioned the 29 December 2021 meeting. Many of you were here. I see some familiar faces. And just as a point of reference, the information we collected from that point forward really is kind of the genesis of this presentation, kind of what we heard. I thought it was important that we at least reference the statistically valid survey because many of our findings are actually aligning with that statistically valid survey, oddly enough. So we compiled not only the preferences that everybody dotted and everybody did online, but also the comments that were on the comment cards, both physically in hand and online. Just a sampling there of the meeting. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. And without any further ado, I think our agenda is going to run as follows. We're going to kind of share some of those preferences. You guys could see kind of what you all said in a public fashion and transparent fashion. We're going to move to some considerations as a result of these preferences, and then dive into a little bit more detail. Then we'll close out and we'll take additional commentary at the podium, and we'll talk about the rules of engagement in that, how much time. And please document your findings. That's I impress upon you, on your comment cards that you're going to get all today. Say what you think, and there'll be an opportunity for you to interact on a couple of these options as well. So we appreciate that, and then without any further ado, I'm going to move this over to Lauren, and let's make this fun. Thanks.
Hello. So this is the findings that we tabulated from the in-person meeting, and it had 14 Zoom attendees and 17 in-person participants on the voting with the DOT activity. And these are our findings. I won't read all of them out because the presentation will be uploaded to the website and the YouTube, so you guys can dive through it and really get into the numbers. But our biggest findings were that an aquatic center was very popular, coming just under an indoor track and a gymnasium. And then along these uses also was the multi-use kind of flexible spaces and some fitness activity spaces. So that was the findings from the DOT exercise, and they lined up well with the comment cards as well. So these are the comment preferences both online and in person, as Tom just mentioned. We received 21 comments to date, and I encourage you for this presentation to, keep uploading your comment cards. You in person can obviously give them to us today, but if you have people that want to catch the meeting afterwards or are watching the meeting at home, please fill those out. They're linked on the website. So this is a kind of an outline of what the comment topics are. We have site preferences, and facility preferences. So on the site preferences, we talk about the facilities, design, amenities, sustainability of the location, and the same thing, but the facility preference really talk about what it will look like as a rec center or a community center or an aquatic center. So our findings were that a combination community center and outdoor aquatic center was the most popular option. Coming second, another very popular option was ball fields and flex lawns that wanted to be incorporated. And next in design, this was more vague, but kind of what people wanted to see out of it. A lot of flexibility, minimizing on-site parking, a preservation of green space or lawn space. But also some people wanted, there's enough green space in the park or in the community elsewhere, let's develop some facilities on this site. So, tabulated that. This again is going into amenities. Basketball court was popular, bike racks, playground. I won't go through all of it, but. And then sustainability was another topic discussed, just in general, sustainable site elements. And a couple people mentioned electric vehicle parking, which would be a strong option on the center. And then this goes into talking about the location preferences and what people really brought up. One of the things was, it was a very popular, as showed earlier as well, to have the community center and the pool in Lions Park. Kind of an even draw of develop green space, don't develop green space on Lions Park. A lot of people said they do not want a community center or a renovation to the existing center at Iowa Park. So that was a very strong opinion I was seeing. Jefferson Pool mentioned the inadequate swim facilities and how they wanted to see some somewhere else. And then a couple people said both move the ball fields from Lions Park to Iowa Park, and another couple said move them from Lions Park to Twin Lakes Park. So this goes into facility preferences now. So now we're talking about what the actual facility would look like on site if we did develop a community center here or an aquatic center. The most popular option was, as you can see in blue, having a community center in combination with an outdoor aquatic center. Then there's also the option of indoor aquatic and outdoor aquatic alongside the community center, a community center only, and not coming in not as popular was just a community center and an indoor aquatic center. And this is the programs that would be offered in the space. So these lined up very evenly with the actual dot exercise we did. So that's always nice to see that the findings are aligning both in comments and the in-person activity. So you can see that a track is very popular, as well as a gymnasium, multi-use spaces, kind of an even draw fitness center versus no fitness center. And then another popular thing that that the community wanted was something for all ages, so seniors to down to a preschool and something for everyone in between. And as far as the design goes, you really talked about differentiating the programs. So there's a draw to Villa Park from other communities, the surrounding communities, a connection from indoor to outdoor, and just flexibility in general of the spaces. Again, sustainability was brought up. A lot of people were in favor of just sustainable design elements, which is kind of standard for Williams as well. So we will be incorporating sustainability into the design. And low operation costs, which not only helps you as more bang for your buck, but also it keeps the energy costs down, and saving energy is sustainable. ADA accessibility, again, standard to design, but just wanted to acknowledge that that was brought up. And then I'll hand it off to Tom for site.
Thank you, Lauren. So what we did is took those comments, took a lot of what was said in here, and arranged it into a couple different options that we're going to go through here today for consideration. One thing that was noted in those remarks, but really wasn't commented on just now, was the fact that people would like to see a bit of a buffer from the west residents, and perhaps having a presence of the community center across Wildwood in lieu of just perpendicular to Wildwood. So we rotated the building, we moved it further to, I guess, almost the center. We pushed it to the east, and we brought the parking all the way to the east and some in front of the building, understanding that we still are looking for 100 shared parking structured stalls across the way. So we're taking advantage of that as well. You can see the building kind of centered in its new rotation. The parking going to the east and moving to the north for future consideration. So from an expansion perspective, and or if something happened with the 100 structured parking stalls, you can kind of get a feel. Do I got a cursor here?
Your mouse.
There's a mouse.
Use the mouse.
Use the mouse. What do I do with the mouse?
Oh, you can point.
The
How?
mouse will show up.
By itself?
Yeah, no, just like see, you could use the.
No, I don't know.
See.
Oh, I gotcha. All right, so here we go. Thank you. So that would be the kind of perimeter of the expansion to the parking lot that could serve, if these 100 structured parking spots weren't here, the site in the totality on site. Takes up more green space. We kept the existing ball field in the scheme. We would obviously look to renovate the existing ball field, but it is in its configuration where it currently sits. And to the right, we just kept some good old-fashioned flex lawn here. So you get an appreciation for how much space is on the site when you start to develop a community center only. I'm sorry. Then we looked at 1A. What if we added the basketball courts, the outdoor basketball courts here, and maybe even had a supplementary playground, still keeping some opportunity for some buffer space, the existing ball fields, but now what happens is the parking has to rotate further to the north, so you're really kind of covering the whole site when you start to add other elements to the site. From a site program perspective. They're still site elements, but they are paved. So we call this 1A. Then the second option is, okay, what if the community center came in the future? You built the aquatic center with the bathhouse. We're going to get into the details of the design here. I'm just kind of showing you the configuration. This is a multi-age segment aquatic facility, much of what you heard in the previous commentary of what people would like to see in it, but the footprint that would be taken up, having the proper bathhouse to it, having the proper access onto an aquatic center site, having parking on site that would accommodate the aquatic center, and then leaving enough room for an expansion of a community center. Now the flex lawn flips to the east. So to the west. Everything stays to the east as much as possible from a site lighting and structure perspective. And so that's considered option 2. Option 3 wasn't overwhelming, but some people asked about it, and we thought, well, it's worth mentioning. What if you did a year-round aquatic opportunity, and you kept the community center, which I want to mention is a multi-age segment, multi-generational community center. So it is something for all ages, from tots to seniors, and everything in between. The pool, we just put a shape in here of what you would have, more than likely would be a lap pool in here, and what it could look like and what kind of footprint that takes up. And by the way, you could still have an outdoor aquatic facility because you could use the expansion of that pool to serve your outdoor aquatic facility. And so you get a little bit of flex lawn out here still, and you're parking the rest of the site. Now we're definitely dependent on the 100 stalls out here across the way, because if we have to bring those on site, you'd have to have a structured parking on site to accommodate all that. So that is option 3. And then, what are some of the site amenities that would come along regardless of the options? Citing a facility to have nice buffer plazas to create vehicular and pedestrian separation, to have a place for safe harbor for the kids and for the adults to gather before they entered and exited a facility. When you get out to the parking lot, having your proper buffer spaces there. We talked about permeable pavers, natural plantings, bioswales. We would want to incorporate all that. Everybody started to there was mention of charging stations beyond the comment cards, but that's good design, sustainable design practice. We'd like to put something like that in, and I think bike racks go without saying here, especially when you're so close to the Great Western Trail and the trail networks, and in an urban setting to have an opportunity to bring bikes to this facility Even with a little bike repair station that's not pictured here would be wonderful for this facility and a wonderful way to access it. So these amenities would come in whether it was a community center or an aquatic center. You're just going to do these good practices on a facility. Next slide. Now we're going to move into facilities and get it. Oh, did I skip one? I'm sorry. Oh, and then here's kind of a sampling of, you know, what does an outdoor basketball court look like when it's engaged with the community recreation center. We can put some, this one does have it, it's not pictured, overhead doors to kind of connect that program element to from indoor-outdoor perspective. We could fence it in so we could control play on the outdoor basketball courts or leave it all open. Just a picture of an aquatic facility, then a picture of good old-fashioned flex lawn, and something you're all familiar with, ball fields, but if we did some upgrades to the ball fields there with some grading and some standards and things like that. So you kind of get a feel for all the program elements on the site from an overall picture perspective, and we're going to do a little deeper dive as we talk about the facilities, what they start to look like, and then we're going to transition into costs for all these options. Without any further ado, I'm going to bring Andrew Caputo up. He'll talk about the facilities portion of this.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to take you through some of the details of the facilities and design for an aquatic center and also for a recreation center, so you guys can see conceptually what these two things might look like. We've prepared this 3D image of a possible concept for an outdoor aquatic facility. And our intention here is to show you the major elements that would be included in an outdoor aquatic facility. Tom had mentioned the importance of a multi-generational facility that is able to be used from all ages. And so when we think about the design for an aquatic center, we want to appeal to that wide range of ages that are present in the community. You can see here in the foreground would be the bathhouse and the filter building, and the entrance into the building obviously would be adjacent to the parking lot and handicap accessible. As you move through the bathhouse, we would include family changing, family locker rooms, and then men and women's locker rooms. There would be some administration and admission space in the bathhouse. Essentially, you would move through that and then exit the bathhouse onto the pool deck. In designing an aquatic facility, one of the most important things as you exit your facility, you want to include your zero depth entry, which is for your youngest age group, for your toddlers. You always want to have that closest to the bathhouse. And so what we have here is a large activity pool in the center of the frame that has a wide zero depth entry. That becomes a very universally accessible means to enter the pool. It's very popular. You can lay in the water, out of the water. Young kids who don't know how to swim can play, and then parents can sit in lounge chairs and still see their older children beyond in the deeper water. So we'll have a gradual depth increase, maybe some water toys and play features for kids in the shallow water area. The depth will slowly increase to the middle of the pool to about 3 or 3.5 feet is typical, sometimes 4 feet. You want to have a nice, generous waiting area for the older kids for play space, because they want to get fully submerged and actually swim as they're playing and enjoying the pool. Adjacent to this waiting area, we have 2 bodies of water. One to the right is called the Plunge Pool. The other one to the left is the Lap Pool. The Plunge Pool receives the water slides. And so the water slides are a great feature to include for a facility such as this, a fun activity that kids can take advantage of. Typically we design these to be phased, where you can build your initial facility maybe with 1 or 2 slides and then add to it later as time goes by to refreshen the facility. The Plunge Pool can also be used for learn to swim because it's a shallow water. So when you have the slides off and you don't have water running down the flumes, typically you could rope off the Plunge Pool. It's usually about 30 by 30, and it's a great body of water for younger kids learning to swim. Connected to the activity pool in the rear of the image here is the Lap Pool. What we recommend here and what most communities really love to see in the Lap Pool is a 25-yard facility. Sometimes we'll design these as 6, 8, or 10 lanes, depending on the budget. The nice thing about a lap pool is, again, it's a very flexible body of water. It can be used for exercise, for lap swimming. It can be used for water polo. It can be used for competitive events. It can also be used for learn to swim. So this facility is also has a adjacency here where you've got some nice shade around it, and it's adjacent to the slide structure. Again, so if you're in the bathhouse and you're on the deck here, you can really get a good view of everyone using the facility for safety. The last body of water that we have included here for you today is what we call the deep hopper, or the diving pool. This is typically a pool that's about 13 or 14 feet deep. This will include a 1 meter and a 3 meter board. You could also consider a drop slide. This is also a popular pool for older kids, for teens, to take advantage of and have their own areas. Something that we also incorporate in the overall design of a facility such as this is some type of concessions. Usually there's a warming kitchen where families can take advantage of some snacks and drinks that would be operated by the Parks Department. And then we have a little rental cabana here for birthday parties. Say you have a birthday party for your child, you could rent that structure, and then you know, for the morning or afternoon, you know, take advantage of that and have a little party at the pool. All right. So we're going to look at some images of those elements that I just spoke of. These are all facilities that we've designed in the past, and we just selected these photos from you just thinking about this project back at the office, and looked at some past projects and wanted to show you some good visual examples. So obviously the top left there, you can see it's a typical lap pool that is 25 yards in length, which is the most popular length for a lap pool. To the right is a activity pool that has that shallow zero depth entry. You can see a little frog slide and some shade over this particular example of this pool. This shows how easily the pool can be accessed. Bottom left, we've got some seating and lounge areas outside that would be what a typical concession deck might look like on a pool facility. And then to the right, we wanted to show you some opportunities for shade. We've got a series of cantilever shade structures here with lounge chairs, again, for parents and grandparents and you know, families and everyone just who wants to hang out at the pool but doesn't necessarily want to go in the water. And then we have another slide here to show you some images. The top left is we typically like to include some activities in the design of an activity pool. This particular activity was a lily pad walk. These are floatables and they're tied to the bottom of the floor. They can be removed. So this creates a kind of a fun activity for kids to try to be able to grab onto an overhead net and walk across the pool, and if they slip, they fall in the water. To the right is also an example of some more water toys and a activity pool and close to the zero depth entry. Those are typically advantageous for toddlers to, say, you know, 1 to or 1st to 2nd grade rather. Bottom left is the drop slide into the deep hopper that I mentioned to you, also with a diving board. And then on the bottom right is a slide tower. We typically like to design the slide towers with different experiences. So in this example, the blue slide is an open flume, which means it doesn't have a top. So when you ride the slide down, you're open to blue sky. The yellow slide is what we call a closed flume slide. It's a little more suspenseful, a little faster ride experience, and you're actually in the tube as you go down and exit into the plunge pool. All right, well, we talked about what an aquatic center might look like for Villa Park. So now we're going to just switch gears here for a minute, and we're going to talk about a community center, because that's the other option we're looking at. And so we're going to look at what a community center might look like. This is just a conceptual floor plan. I'm going to show you a main level and an upper level plan, and just very briefly touch on the highlights. It's also very important for me to again mention that we're conceptual, we're very early, we're in pre-design. So we've developed these concepts based on your preferences and your programming input. The design phase will be a process that we'll go through with staff for both the aquatic and the community center to refine and improve the design. So I just want to emphasize that this is just conceptual. But you can see here the recreation center, if you think about the colors for a minute, basically the most important thing to just recognize is yellow is circulation. So if you enter, you've got a main lobby space that you come into off the parking lot. Into that lobby space is a large gathering area and a control desk. We want to have opportunities in this lobby space for community, tables, chairs, some lounges, benches, chairs. Again, folks from all ages can hang out here in the lobby and have a nice welcoming gathering space. To the right of this space in orange is our main athletics component. One of the most important things on the survey was to have a large gymnasium, and then you'll see when we go to the second floor it has a running track. But basically what we have here is a high, if you could see my cursor here, we have a high school basketball court. We'll have some smaller basketball cross courts, volleyball and pickleball are typically striped on these types of gym facilities. Then we've got some opportunities for fold-up bleachers that would fold up against the wall that many of you may have seen at another park district or high school facility. Those are very nice to have, so you can have folks watch a basketball game, or if you have two volleyball games going, you would have the ability for spectators on either side to access the bleachers. Then we have some support spaces around the perimeter of the gym facility that would be underneath the running track. Let's just switch gears for a minute and we'll go back to this lobby. And if we go to the left here in purple, these are the multi-purpose rooms. These are the largest program type rooms in this facility. One of the things that we try to do with these facilities is maximize the program opportunities. We want to be able to give the Parks Department the maximum flexibility so that they can operate the most number of programs throughout this facility. So we have some flexible features here. This has a divider wall, so this room can be split in half. This little rectangle here is your little kitchen, training kitchen, little cafe. Again, that would be off the lobby, so that's convenient there. So you enter into these multi-purpose rooms from these doors here. There's a little bit of storage there. So this is a high ceiling space. This is a dynamic space. This can host a whole range of community events and meetings. This is a very important program element to include in your recreation facility, and to have it easily accessed off the lobby is nice. As we move back into the facility, here we have in green is the administration area. This is where the Parks Department staff would be located, and this would be divided up into some offices and cubicles, and that's where the administration component would occur. To the left of that, also in purple, we have two general program spaces that are also very flexible with a divider. On the left, we have just a general program that's accessed off the corridor here. This general program can be used for anything that you could think of that the Park District might offer. It could be dedicated to esports for teens, as an example. To the right here, this could be also used for child care or creative kids. If the playground option is selected, we'd have a set of double doors here, so this would go right out to the playground that's located to the north here. And so that could be easily supervised. We have a washroom core here that can be used for all these facilities with family change. And then down here, we have the main locker room core to the south of the gym. And the main locker room core is going to have a lot of functionality that's going to include your lockers, your washrooms, your lavatories, your sinks, steam rooms, and then we have a couple family locker rooms as well. So to get upstairs into the facility, we have a monumental stair that's right off the lobby here. If you could see that, you walk right upstairs, and I'll show you the second floor here just in a minute, and then we have an elevator. All right, so this is the second floor. And the second floor is a little smaller than the first floor and takes advantage of the footprint that we created below to try to create some dynamic spaces. So the first thing that you could see when you walk up this monumental stair, we have a nice large corridor here, a cross corridor, and then you actually look down into a large two-story lobby. So that's the gathering space that I previously mentioned that you would be a part of. So we imagine this to be very glassy, let in a lot of natural light, a very high ceiling. We want this space to be very pleasant and inviting space to hang out in. When we're upstairs, we want to have easy access to the running track. So right here we're showing a 2-lane running track, 2 lanes, 5 feet wide. And you could run, you could walk, of course, you don't have to run. One's basically designated 1 lane for walking, 1 lane for running. We have an emergency exit off the running track at the end here. This large area that's colored in 2 colors, this is actually the stretching area for the running track. So the corridor is very large here because you'll have some mats and benches, you know, set up outside the glass double doors and glass windows here. So as you're stretching, you'll have some mirrors on the walls and you could see right into that running track. Again, that'll be something very inviting when you come upstairs. If we look at the 2 purple components upstairs, we have our Group X room here, again, right off that corridor, right next to the stretching area. The Group X, similar to the general program, is a very flexible type of space. You can host a multitude of programs. Typically, this type of a room has a wood floor. It's popular for you know, dance and ballet programs, for kids karate. It can be used for any type of exercise or aerobics. It can be used for seniors. Cycling, right? You could have your spin, you could use it as a spin studio and then move the spin bikes in the storage room, you know, so you have that functionality. This room is about 1,600 to 1,800 square feet, so it's a nice large room, very flexible. As we walk down the corridor this way, we've got a couple small washrooms, but then you walk right in here, and this large area here, this footprint, that's your fitness room. And the fitness room is typically a larger space because, of course, all the multitude of exercise equipment that it's going to include takes up some room. So to provide good circulation and availability of equipment, we'll have all the typical assortments that you would expect to see in a fitness center, whether it be free weights or cardio or cycling, you know, exercise, any type of exercise that you would want to do is going to happen in this facility. This would also be something very nice, glassy, dynamic. You would be able to look out to the north, see the rest of the park, and then look to the west down to that green space buffer that we have between the houses. And then we have a fitness assessment room and an office. When we design recreation centers, we break it down into program categories. And so we just wanted to show you this slide to mention that there is a rhyme or reason to our coloring and how we organize these types of facilities. Athletics is the gym and the running track. Health fitness is your fitness room. A general program includes the esports and the programming rooms of multi-purpose, the programming rooms of creative play, childcare, facility administration, we showed you in green, lobby circulation in yellow, general building support in gray. So what we're looking at for a recreation facility, at a minimum, we're probably looking at a facility about 38,000 square feet for this type of community. And then similar to what we did for the Aquatic Center, we just wanted to take you through some facilities. Again, these photos are all of projects we have designed. So we picked these out again for you, just thinking back at the office of what might be some neat photographs from some previous projects for you to take a look at and see. So the top 2 are athletics. Obviously the left shows the gym where we'd have a beautiful maple sports floor, nice high ceilings, lots of natural light, and you can see the some of the wall padding that occurs on the perimeter and the basketball standards. To the right is the running track. Typically there's a cushioned surface on that, a Mondo flooring, if you've heard that trade name before, is very popular. There's competitors to that. But the running track is, and this facility here it has kind of a neat guardrail design that we wanted to show you. Feels very open. Bottom left is that fitness, showing some exercise machines and the inviting nature of the walking into the fitness area, and then how we like to design the facilities with windows, so while you're exercising, you're not just looking at a blank wall, but you have some nice views. And then the bottom right is the Group X room. Again, maple floor, like I mentioned before, dance, karate, spin, different opportunities. Then we have, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. We meant to have a kitchen photo there. We'll have to correct that on the slide. But the left is the multi-use space. That, if you remember from a couple slides previous, the multi-use was those two purple rooms right off the lobby that could be opened and closed with a movable partition. The bottom left is one of the general programs rooms for creative kids that can be used for also for dropping off younger kids for supervision. So we've typically got a lot of child-sized furniture and cubbies for toys and opportunities for play in that type of a general program room. And then the bottom two pictures to the bottom right are lobby gathering pictures that, again, provide an opportunity for social interaction, which is something that I think we all have longed for in these last couple of years. Okay, so one of the things that we wanted to show you next is to give you some idea of the costs for these options that Tom presented a little bit ago. And so when we think about architecture and construction, we think of things in construction cost and then total project cost. And so construction cost is basically described as what you might have heard the term as hard cost. That's basically the cost to build the building. It includes any contingencies that you might have. If you basically could turn the building upside down and shake the building, anything that doesn't fall out would be considered hard construction cost. Soft cost is a number that we add to the hard cost to get the total project cost. So soft cost, again, if I'm shaking the building, what's going to fall out? The furniture. That's soft cost. Infrastructure, equipment, that's soft cost. Design, architecture, engineering, that's soft cost. Legal costs, survey costs, geotechnical costs. So there's other things that you need to add to the construction cost to get the total project. So with option one, we'd be looking at, this was for the community center and the existing ball field. We're looking at a building and site of about $15 million for that recreation center design that I showed you. And then a total project cost of about $17.25 million. Option 1A expanded on that first option, which is why we called it 1A and not option 2, where we added the outdoor playground and the outdoor basketball court. So that adds about $500,000 to the hard cost. And then once that additional cost is factored in the soft cost, that cost is $17.825 million. Option 2 was the Aquatic Center. The Aquatic Center has a site and building total construction cost of about $9 million for that type of facility. It's a little more compact of a site, so it's not quite as expensive as some that are sprawling, and we have a lot of flexibility there, so as you can see, we can get a lot of bang for your buck for that $9 million. The total project cost for an outdoor aquatic center is $10.325 million. And then the last option was option number 3. This was basically the option where we said, okay, we'll build the community center for you with the indoor pool. So the indoor pool adds about $6.25 million to the cost of the community center. So of course this is the most expensive of the options, again, because it's the biggest building footprint. And you get a total project cost of $24.45 million. It's important to mention, as we look at these costs, these are preliminary costs. Of course, we haven't gone through a detailed design exercise. These are in today's dollars if we're moving forward with one of these options, you know, this year and then building the following year. If any of these options are delayed 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, then you would have to include escalation for inflation in these numbers. And that takes us to our last slide. And I'd like to thank all of you for joining us this morning, whether it's here in person or online or on TV. We want to mention a couple things in closing to you. Greg had mentioned to please go on to the Villa Park website to access the comment cards. And then we have some comment cards here to fill out. And then our next presentation, which will be a duplicate of this presentation for those that were not able to attend, will be on the 19th. And you can see some information there just from the cable and YouTube.
Thank you. Hello. I just want to reiterate, I'll go back to the site options that the comment cards will have you voting on. They have little boxes next to them that show all the 4 options for the community center. And I'll go back to the slide. But by Monday morning, the new comment card, which is editable, as well as a copy of just those 4 slides from the presentation that show you the different site options, will be uploaded to the park website by Monday morning. So be on the lookout for that. Feel free to fill out more comment cards. Again, it just helps. We want to give you what you want, and the more information we have about your preferences, the better. So without further ado, I'll go back to those slides.
Will the full deck be available
Yes.
on the village website with all
Yes.
the things?
Yes, that'll be available too. I just want to break out those 4 for ease as well. And so will this presentation. It'll be on YouTube as well.
I have a question. On your running track, what's the, how many times you run per mile?
I didn't calculate that, so off the top of my head, it's usually somewhere between 10 to 15 laps, depending on how big the gym is.
Okay.
I could get back to you on that. I forgot to calculate that before the meeting.
Okay.
So we are going to open this up to public comment, by the way, so I'm gonna,
So yeah,
I don't think you need to deal with showing them the options.
the options are good? Okay. Okay.
Alright, cool. So let's just take this. Alright, cool. So arbitrarily, we're going to start right here. We're going to go down the row and back this way. We have 4 rows. I do ask that we follow the village ordinances around 3 minutes. I'm not going to cut you off hard, but when you see 3 minutes finish, wrap it up. There's comment cards, questions, anything you need. We'd love to get everyone's input. So do you want to start, or you're going to pass? Sam, do you want to start? Anyone in the first row? Cool. Anyone on the second row? Go ahead. Come on up to the podium. We're doing name, address, and then your 3 minutes.
My name is Robert, last name is Barloga. I live on 315 South Villa, so I'm close to the proximity of the center. I'm just aware of this now, so I'm looking for transparency, and I heard walking in that you updated the website. So now there'll be more information available, because when I clicked on it, I didn't see anything about this. And I'm busy like everybody else, so I'm surprised you're this far along. So
Yes, on the website, right on the front page is community input meetings, and if you click on that, it gives you all the information. It gives you the past master plan, feasibility study, everything. So just go onto the front page, and I think it's the very bottom of the page.
so you're taking input from the community.
Correct.
I saw numbers there that, you took a poll for 17 people, so I don't know how representative that is for the overall community, but eventually you're going to take all these comments in, and what's the process once you get them?
Yeah, correct. Well, it's similar to today, what they did with those 17 or 21 people from the Zoom or whatever it was. Williams will take that information and total it up. Same from today's comment cards, total them up. Like for the next meeting, they'll total what we've got today, and then, Karen?
That'll be, your review of the comments will be what, communicated?
Yeah, that'll be communicated at the next meeting. Right, and
Right.
you know, the turnout was a little bit small, and hopefully with the next 2, we get more turnout. But as Tom had mentioned, they still follow, we had the statistically valid survey from the feasibility study that was done a couple years ago, and it follows that, and there was a lot more input on that study. So it kind of mirrors what the study shows.
So overall, I understand we needed a community center based on the condition of the one that's there. My presence here is I'm interested in what's going to cost tax-wise to the community, to people like me that in Villa Park. What's it going to do to traffic? I live near Ovaltine Court. There's heavy traffic on Villa. It's not patrolled. People do 50, 60 miles an hour down that area. This looks like maybe more traffic, but probably not so in the community center. Maybe on the other project. You're doing 3 projects. We have one in Ardmore, Lions Park, and then between 100 and 110 South Villa. That's a mixed community something. That's not for this meeting though, right?
Right. I believe there's going to be a traffic study from the Catalyst partners that are proposing the complex off of Villa. The cost to the residents would be, your taxes would not go up. We have a $10 million grant from the DNR. And we had Spear Financial, the village's financial advisors, come in. And the board on last Monday, approved the issuance of bonds up to $7.5 million. And that would have no impact on the...
17 million.
Correct, 17.5 million.
Right.
Spears Financial would probably be available to go over those at another board meeting. So they're the experts and they're the village's financial advisors. But from everybody's understanding, either concept is not going to impact the taxes for the residents.
I'm going over. I'm just trying
No,
to...
that's okay.
I'm just trying to get up to speed.
Nope, you bet. Thank you. Nope, great. Appreciate it.
Can I have a suggestion?
We're going to go
Oh,
down.
I
Oops,
was
sorry.
just talking about this fact that people don't know about it. Is there a way to put it in the village flyer that you go there, or maybe a QR code directly linking it to the information?
The QR code, I mentioned that earlier, the QR code is up on the site that people can download, and it takes you right to the community input meeting site, and it lists everything, so.
Not on the site, but like on the flyer that you get for the
Village
village
Matters.
one.
Yeah, the Village Matters,
Village Matters, so when you send that out, you have all the information there, and you can click through it right there.
People should be made aware in some way or another. I wasn't aware. I read it in Daily Herald, that's what I found out.
right, well, I mean, there's been discussion since President Kazone announced a $10 million grant, and so there's been discussion. So we're trying to do is get as much information out there as possible.
Yeah, I also will reiterate that the second Tuesday of every month we have Village, our Parks and Rec Advisory Commission Board. We meet at Iowa Community Center, so I've seen a couple people come, but yeah, just kind of reiterating that we have an open forum, come in, ask questions. Yeah. So we'll start in the second row, or did you have, come on up.
Well, I have 2 comments. The first comment is option 2 you guys have on here. It says build the Aquatic Center first, then the community center. We kind of need a 2B also on here, which is build the community center first, then the aquatic center.
So that would be option 1 and 2 combined, right? So the option 1 is the community center first, option 2 is the cost of the aquatic center, so we can certainly...
Yeah, you can,
need to pick that.
that's the other option there, so, because this reads like you're going to build the aquatic first and the,
Right.
so that's, one thing. Another thing, last time I came here, I did, speak about some special, kind of features that, we can think about, and, I did kind of send a picture in, a day ago about some the roof options, like, we can do some special stuff on the roof also, kind of open for possibilities, and I would consider you guys have those design elements. I saw a few pictures on the website and in your initial presentation that had some ideas for the roof in terms of solar panels or things like that. I just want you to kind of consider that as a space that could be used also, at least, you know, in our community at least 3 months of the year. So that's what I would say. When you have the ball fields, now if we put in the pool later, per se, It would be nice to see a picture of before and after if we have the ball fields till the pool goes in, a before and after kind of picture so that we have that, you know. Because as I said, like one of our options may be to build a community center, build a pool, in retrospect when the money comes in for the same. And if that's the option, it would be nice to see that, you know, before and after thought process.
Thank you, good comments. We will definitely show that, not at the next meeting, we'll probably just vocalize it, but by the time we get to the board presentation, we'll have all that flushed out and we'll have what people's preferences are, but, so we'll clarify that. And for all the special features, those were illustrated earlier, those would be part of the design when we really get into design. I think the use of outdoor decks makes wonderful sense. It's bonus space if we structure the roof properly where you can get out and have seasonal activity opportunities, green roofs, the solar panels, anything we can do to foster sustainability in a practical way, right? Andrew talked about thrusting in natural light. That's just a beautiful thing to get into a facility and keep energy costs at a minimum. And some of these other things too that sound like practical ideas as well, not just on the site, but on the building. So I remember your comment specifically last time, make this unique to our community. And I think we would absolutely do that, including space itself, the flexibility of space and how you use space. We show creative kids, right? We're talking about a space that can be doubled over. If anybody knows anything about drop-off childcare, it doesn't exist all day long for a programming. It's at its peak hours of fitness and gymnasium use. So we can bring that down and create a karate class out of that room. You saw the little kids' furniture, that goes into storage. So cycling furniture in and out, keeping those partitions and all that kind of stuff makes it a unique facility. And the use of internet throughout the facility for those social areas gives people an opportunity to hang out in the space.
Yeah, that's my last comment. I just wanted to say, think about a dividable child space also.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, we're asking that name, address, just so that they can take the notes. No worries. Anyone else? First row? Second row, come on up. You can pull it down. You can pull the mic down if you need to.
My name is Hannah Elger. I live at 109 North Westmore. I have lived in Villa Park for 31 years. So I have seen what this community has grown and gone through. I actually went to preschool at the Iowa Community Center, and to be honest, that building has not changed in 30 years. It hasn't. And I'm most concerned about what upkeep costs are going to be for this kind of facility, and what programs we're going to lose. Because looking at that design, there's not a preschool area that is definable. On the website, it says you're going to get rid of the Iowa Community Center as a parks building. So what programs are we going to lose that we don't have, that we have now? And what are the costs for upkeep? If you're talking about gym equipment, that breaks down with use over several years, people not knowing how to use it properly. So what is the plan for that? We've talked about a building, an Iowa Community Center, being basically left in disrepair, hearing about the plumbing and the electrical and the roof. What is our upkeep plans? How much is that going to cost? The other thing that I didn't hear mentioned today is how much does it cost to use this facility? Addison has a rec facility, and it costs about $30 a month if you want to use the facility, but it also has an indoor pool as part of that. The Lombard facility costs about $20 to $25 a month per person to use. They don't have a pool, but that's something that hasn't come up. So yes, if we use, it sounds like option one, the taxes won't go up, but you didn't mention how much the taxes will go up for options B, C, or D. And those are things that really matter. We spent a lot of money on a library where they got rid of all the books to put in meeting space. And so I just don't want this to turn into what are we losing to put in a new facility. Also, with all the other construction that is proposed in the village happening in that area, traffic study needs to be done. Those people's houses, having that added traffic, hearing the dependency on needing a parking structure that's going to get turned into apartments, that's not feasible then. Having all of that in one spot, it's not going to fit if that dependent parking turns into something else, because you're changing all of that traffic, all of those people that are potentially living right there, you need to consider the ramifications of everything else going on in the village at this time for what it is. And I'd really like an answer on what we're going to lose by changing these programs, what classes are going away, what village services are now not going to be there. I rent out the Aquatic Center gym for several sports programs for their end of year parties, things like that. At the MAC, they don't allow you to have food in the gym. So is that space now you have to rent 2 spaces in order to have somewhere for a team to eat and then somewhere for a team to play? It's just kind of those things that I don't think are being talked about for how people actually use. Fitness center is great. It'd be nice to have something nice in this town that other towns around us have. But it's making sure that we don't lose some of those things, like the cheap preschool, that would be going away. Because there is no preschool in that plan. And even if you have a changing space, it still doesn't allow for that program to be a consistent part of what we have.
So a couple things. Thank you for your comments, first and foremost. Good points. There was a feasibility study done in detail in 2019, which went beyond the statistically valid survey. Please go online. It talks all about the operations and programming aspects of a community center of this size. We weren't here to push this forward and to get into that level of detail. If a community center is the desire, we will absolutely review that study, look at the program assessment, look at what you would lose, or maybe you wouldn't lose. Think about it as additive. If that means bringing in a preschool room, we'll have to talk about it with staff. We'll have to talk about it with the board and see if it's financially sustainable. There is price points in that study as well. I would say you're probably in the same general realm of what you're talking about with surrounding communities, but that is laid out in that study. Pros Consulting did it. I was able to read that study in advance, and again, that wasn't our mission here for public input. That's a lot of information for us to go into that deep of a dive, but it is important information, so I would urge anyone to go on there from full transparency perspective. And that doesn't just hold true to a community center, that holds true to an aquatic center, right? Any facility that you operate has a return on investment and a cost to operate, 100%. I didn't quite understand your B, C, D options and what that means from a tax endpoint. Options, they're numbered. So options 1 and 1A have no tax impact. Option 2 has no tax impact. Option 3, if you're going to go to try to build an indoor aquatic facility right now with the community center, it's beyond the threshold. It has a tax impact. But perhaps that indoor could be thought of as, well, look, there's a space on this site plan where if we wanted to grow into an indoor aquatic facility, we can make it happen in the future. That's really what that's more about. But from transparency, it was brought up, so we showed it to differentiate that third option. We could probably come up with 7 options when we're all said and done here, but I think it's like try to keep it germane to what the people are saying in the statistically valid survey as well as your input here. And this input's very important to us, truly. So I thought...
Transparency, I bought my own house in town 4 years ago, and I was never once contacted about this survey. My mother's lived in this town for 30 years.
Yeah.
She was never contacted about this survey, so I'm not sure who they surveyed or how they did it. But
It's a random survey. It's a random survey. It's statistically valid. You could go in and read all that data. I'm sorry that you didn't get that information. I have no control over it. I'm just telling you it is a scientifically valid survey. I'm not defending it because it's not my survey, but I know these surveys are done across the country. I know the organization who did it. They're reputable and they basically work not only nationally but internationally. So thank you for your comments. I mean, those are good comments, and I'm just opening it up to say where you could find this information, and I appreciate the fact that this is important to you all.
Yeah, so I'll just give you a little bit of background on that survey. We sent it out. It was at the library. It was here. You can come and pick it up. It was on the website. We had it on Facebook. We put it in the Parks and Rec magazine, the booklet that went out. We had a pretty big push, and I think that was 2016, 2017. So the results are on the website. So yeah.
George, I think it also went out in the water bills.
What's that?
I think it also went out in the water bills.
Oh, it went out in the water bill as well. So we'll continue down the line. Would you like to go? Go ahead, Tom. Name, address, 3 minutes. You got it.
I don't think you need address with the Illinois Open Meetings
No,
Act.
just name. You got it.
Tom King. I'm really happy with this meeting today. I feel like compared to the last meeting that we're utilizing the data and the input from the community more to drive the concept of what we want to build. And I think that's very important. I heard that several times today, so thank you. That the input from and data from the community is paramount in terms of designing this community center or aquatic center. I really like the aquatic center within the scope of what we want to build. I mean, Jefferson Pool is our main pool in this town. It was past its useful life 10 years ago. I think you guys did the assessment on that. We have the Villa Park Mariners serves a lot of children in this community. Both my kids swim for the Mariners. I mean, to be using a pool that was past its useful life 10 years ago, we really need something that serves this community in a number of ways in terms of aquatics. I do like the rec center as well. So I agree with Deepa that we should have an option 1 plus option 2 and see what the cost of that is. Also, the existing programs, like the martial arts program, the dance program, we should be soliciting feedback from the leaders of those programs and incorporating that into the design of this new rec center. We don't want, a strong program that a lot of people in this community use, and then have a new rec center that doesn't facilitate or is constrained by the new facility. We want to solicit feedback from the leaders of those programs and incorporate that into our concept as well. So I encourage the Williams Architect and Mr. Gola to do that as well. I like the idea of spurring the community center into the Great Western Trail, the Prairie Path, and perhaps even the Salt Creek Trail. It kind of makes Villa Park a centralized point, and it's also really nice. I work in Des Plaines, the community center there. Sometimes before work, I'll go and change, and then go on the path that's right outside, and then come back, change into work clothes, and go to work. It's having a spur into those trails is really nice. Would be really nice to have. I also agree that multi-purpose functionality is important. That maximizes the use of our tax and grant dollars, and also facilitates more programs. Lastly, I always question if Iowa could be revamped, and if it would be cheaper doing it that way. And I now see the fact that probably throwing $5 million into a building to bring it up to code and abate asbestos probably isn't the best way to do it. I appreciate you providing that information, Greg. So I agree, throwing $5 million into a building to bring it up to code and abate asbestos is probably not the way to go. So the question I have for Williams, if we do an outdoor aquatic center and a rec center together, what is the cost?
27 million, 28 million almost.
If we do,
No, it's not. Hold on. We're talking, he just said a community center and an outdoor aquatic center without the indoor pool.
Yes.
So you got 17, let's say the basketball courts aren't there, you got 17.2 million and 10 point something million, so you got almost 28 million.
20 million.
Total project cost. And I think that's what the lady in the front row to the end was kind of asking, what does that combination look like as if they were together and no matter which one went first. So right now you have to total slide option 1 and option 2 to get there, and I know this because I have to work up the costs. They're in my head, but that's a good point.
And then would that we got $10 million from the grant, so the remaining 18 million, would we need to pass a referendum to get that extra 18 million?
I have to leave that to the leaders here, and that know their finances more than I do. But
Yeah, at this point, the board approved the issuance of the bonds for the actual $7.5 million without a tax increase. The rest of that money we'd have to go to referendum somehow to raise the rest of those fees.
So it'd be an additional $10 million referendum.
I would imagine. I'm not the finance guy, but I think that's how it works. Yeah.
Ballparking it.
Yep.
So. Great, thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Next.
Hi, Vicki Flaskamp. I live on Oakland. So my family has lived in this town for over 60 years, so we still do. Many of them still do. One thing is certain, we do need a rec center, and it needs to be accomplished. This is something we've been in need. Though through this accomplishment, we need to make sure that we do it with care and thoughtfulness, and we don't rush into the project like the other projects we've done, such as Ovaltine, High Ridge Ball Field, and now the Garden Station. There are still many questions that need to be answered about that particular project and how much it's going to cost our residents. We need to make sure that this project takes into account all the possibilities. We are starting to do that and do different different modifications. And I am 100% building this rec center. I'm not quite sure I'm behind where the location is because I do live in that location. I am concerned about traffic. We are now putting two developments there plus the Garden Station. When we're looking at Garden Station, yes, that's going to impact the traffic down Villa because there's only one way to exit that train station right now. It's going north towards North Avenue, and the only way to get directly across to Roosevelt is down Villa. Addison Road only goes to St. Charles. So if they're doing a traffic study, that needs to be taken into consideration. They also need to make sure that they say that they're going to have a bus that goes from Union Station over to the train station. How long is that going to last, and how long is it feasible? How many riders do they need to make sure that's feasible to eliminate that traffic, which takes into consideration where we're doing this. Also, if we are adding more traffic, how are the kids going to cross the street? I mean, you got that. Do we want traffic lights down Villa past there? No, we don't. That's why we live here. Our traffic lights are only on our main arteries. My other concern is based on the last 29th drawings you had, there was no ball fields. So now you are adding the ball fields, but still at one cost. We're still losing a ball field. We now have to renovate it and keep going. Razzing the ball fields, now you want to turn into the ball fields, take them to make it a aquatic center. Why? We still have to now do feasibility studies, locations, and now we have to build a new ball field. That's going to be added cost to us. We already have it there. Why are we going to do that? So I think we just need to make sure we're looking at all those options when we take it into consideration. The amenities for the rec center, I did take Trustee Kumar, your last meeting, you wanted it something different. I do think a rooftop deck would be really cool because right now you're not looking at the, anything that you're looking at is west or south or whatever north or west, but there's nothing looking at the trails. So we need to figure out, and it'd be a great place for a location. You can go upstairs, wait for your kids' classes, wait for you can have your smoothie, you can do whatever you need there. You could also rent it out for parties, which would be great revenue. Also, there was mention of a kitchen. I didn't see it in this plan. Did I miss it?
Yeah, apologies. The photo was missing. We'll definitely get that populated for the
When you're doing a kitchen, if you're thinking you're still going to have ball fields out there, why is it not connected to an outside concession stand? Also, why are we not having any bathrooms that are accessible from that ball field that are in that place to be accessible into the building? I really think we need to take a look at that to have those amenities brought in. I know we're not there, but something we need to talk about. Also, other amenities, sauna, wet sauna, whirlpool. I'd give up the kitchen for that personally. I know, I'm over it. Too bad. Also, you seem to keep adding more parking. So we're always banking on this 100 spaces of parking. Why are we not using the space that Trustee Kozar suggested along Wildwood towards it? I don't know why we're not using that as extra parking instead of putting it back in towards the green space. Just take that into consideration. I think that's a great idea. Two more things. I'll be done. We say that, if we need to get this information done by March 31st, can we not go to IDNR and say, hey, we need 30 or 60 more days to make sure we do this? They're not going to do that to make it right.
They'll just go next. They'll just tell us to go next, yeah.
So, I mean, that's really sad because we need to do this right. And it's unfortunate that the state wants us to spend $10 million and not do it right. That's unfortunate that they're rushing us and trying to get this done quickly. The other thing I just wanted to say is everyone talks about the Aquatic Center. I know it's not the purpose of our meeting, but we have brought it in that we do want to have an Aquatic Center, but I really think that Jefferson area can be transformed into the Aquatic Center. I think there's ways we can do it. We can do it in stages. I think we can look at it and do it that way so that we do have an aquatics part as well as recreational and high school swim teams. But we need to start planning for that now. We can't wait until whenever. But we need to make sure that it doesn't add on to the tax burden of the residents. So, thank you.
Thank you. Very good comments, by the way. Just to kind of shed some light, this is the study part, right? So when the leadership gets to make a decision on what direction the study goes, there will be ample time. It's not like we're going to roll into documentation and get it out on the street for bid. There'll be design time, there'll be input even in that phase for people to comment on the design as it develops, whatever that design looks like. So the big decisions would be made in front of the board in terms of what elements would be built and what locations, and then the evolution of that design would still continue with public input. We would still take in some input. So thank you for your thoughts, good points. And I agree with you on this, the engineering study. You know, I don't have control over it, but there's a greater study that's being done on the traffic engineering, that is.
Thank you, Vicki. Sure, would you like to go? Go ahead.
Cheryl Tucker. I just want clarification for the people of the village. You threw a lot of designs out here in front of them. And as you said, they were concept designs.
Yeah.
So a lot of those pictures you have up here can be changed or rotated or changed.
Right.
Like you were doing the Aqua Center separate from the community center. The locker room and the bathhouse could be joined if you added onto the recreational center instead of two buildings. So they need to understand that some of those can be joined together. The flip of the locker room that you had on the bottom could be flipped the other way, and the Aqua Center could come off the back half of the building, and you'd have a joint locker room and aquatic center or a bathhouse together.
Much like that image shows up there, but yes.
Right, you can do a lot of flipping around on
Right.
it. I want people to understand that these were only concept drawings, that things can all change on this building. Just like the fitness part where you were talking about the fitness being upstairs, it could be put downstairs off of the gym, where a lot of buildings do it now, so that you have all your fitness together, your multi-purpose rooms upstairs, where it makes more concept to use the rentals and everything if everything's upstairs rather than downstairs. You also mentioned that we could, a lot of people ask for a rooftop type concept to make better use of the scenery around there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things that aren't being put in here, you're just throwing things together. As Diva mentioned, you didn't put the option, I put an option 4 down of just a community center and an aqua center, the swimming pool separate without the indoor pool. A lot of people don't feel we need the indoor pool, so that may be another option you want to put into effect.
Are you talking about this one?
That and the community center joined together
Right.
without an indoor pool. A lot of people do not believe we need the indoor pool. There's
Right.
a lot of other areas in here that provide indoor pool swimming that there was no necessary to it, so that might be another option that
Sure.
you might want to put in your concept of going together. And then again, I know you started to try to give us a price range, which was perfect, but a lot of people are going to want to know with your concept on, you know, adding a ball field in the area of the basketball court in your concept. You're removing, obviously, the pool, because you said you can only have one or the other.
Right.
In your design, so there, if you do put the, because it's kind of conceived on your design on here, that if you do the basketball courts, playground equipment, the Aqua Center would not be part of that design.
That is correct, yes.
So they need to know that you're either going to the ball field outfit, or they're going to get the community center and their Aqua Center. You cannot have both in that area on space-wide. And on your layout of
You can have
the
both.
parking theory, is there, you have no control over that, I take it, for the 100 parking spaces that they promised and the design of it. When are you going to have to know if you have to put that parking in? Because
We know-
that's going to make a big deal on what whether we can have an Aqua Center and a community center or a ball field and.
Well, no, you'll be able to get you'll be able to accommodate, let's just say you don't get those 100 spots across the way. You would still be able to get the community center and the outdoor aquatic with the parking on site. It's illustrated right here.
Just expanded to the west.
You would have to build all this as parking. To your point of connectivity, we could look at this bathhouse as being part of this building, absolutely. You're still going to want to have a separation between the two and get a promenade that takes you there. So these are design details, but from a blocking perspective, both fit on the site, a community center and an outdoor aquatics with the necessary parking to accommodate the two. It would be more green space if we got the 100 stalls across the way as structured parking.
Understand, but if you put the parking between it, you're not going to be able to use the locker room and the fan house together. It's going to have to be a different.
There are other ways we can arrange this floor plan where you can use it. We can go up to the north, push the aquatic center, or have a connectivity piece where you can use it. So you could have an entry kiosk building without all the toilet support. We've done it elsewhere, in Carmel, Indiana, and many places, where you do separate, you do take a walk, and then there's a controlled way in, but your changing has taken place inside the facility. So there are ways to do it.
Okay, same thing with the concession stand, could be joined if you put the two
Correct.
of them together.
Correct. That was a good
and
comment.
Not make a separate thing, because I think a lot of people in Villa Park are worried about cost, efficiency, and if you're gonna set this up, you need to make an efficiency if you're gonna do the Aqua Center and the Community Center to use, overlap a lot of that stuff that you have. The same thing with the ball field and if it goes the ball field and the baseball, courts, you need to make use of the fact of overlapping it, not making double or multiple on it.
Cool, thanks, Cheryl. Would you like to start? No? Go that third row. Yeah, thank you.
My name's Larry Burrett, 600 block of South Michigan, Villa Park resident for 47 years. We must, as energy costs keep going, we must include solar panels to mitigate the electrical charge, period.
Thank you.
That third row in the corner? Yeah, come on up.
My name's Anthony Otto. I'm a resident here in Villa Park. I also own a business on Villa Avenue. I've been part of the Villa Avenue Business Owners Association for 20 years. I've come up and spoken a lot about parking in the area. My question is the 100 spots that keep getting referenced, is that in the Union Building or in the proposed senior housing?
I can't speak from the Economic Development Department, but I believe that's in the Union Building, and part of the agreement was if they were to build their complex, that they would have to provide us with 100 spots.
So I believe the Union's going to have 10,000 square feet of commercial space on the lower level, plus there's already currently some vacant buildings or storefronts on Villa. My concern again is that the parking has now been a situation has been alleviated with the 110 South Villa Avenue, that if, I think he had mentioned a number about 3.5 spots per, whereas like the sweet spot.
Right.
And that you needed all of those 100 spots to get to that sweet spot, that it's not being used for the businesses in the area like it was kind of promised.
Right.
So, is there a possibility of spots at a senior living, or has that been not talked about anymore?
Kind of off the table.
Okay, all right, just making sure. Okay, that's all my questions.
Thank you.
From the parking.
You guys can give your comment cards to Greg if that's okay. Cool. Come on up.
Morning, everyone. Jack Kozar, trustee. This has been a great meeting. From the last meeting to today, I've gotten a lot of comments from a lot of residents, and I've expressed those. I've worked with Mike and Greg, Gina, Suzanne. Some of those have trickled back to you. I feel like a lot of those comments have been heard, and we see this reflected in today's meeting. So, I mean, in terms of communication, I really think we're making progress. We can always keep doing better, but I absolutely see the progress here. Greg was responsible with his staff for writing up a great memo on Iowa and the repairs that were needed. We took a tour of Iowa, myself and a bunch of other people. Trustee Patrick was there as well. That was super helpful just to give us an idea of, where we're at with Iowa and why it may or may not make sense to build on there or invest in Lions Park. So thank you for doing that. The pricing that you've included in here, I know it's ballpark pricing and it's not out to bid, but based on your experience, I think that gives all of us a good idea of just, some general ideas. Super good. I would like to see a little bit of information on what it would take to if we threw some money into Jefferson Pool, how that money could be best utilized. So similar to Iowa, what does Iowa need and what are the pros and cons of it? Maybe we could do a snapshot view of Jefferson, and maybe if we don't jump right into a $10 million outdoor aquatic center, what would it look like if we spent some decent chunks of money on Jefferson along the way, spread that out over time and over years, where we don't have to do a bond for it, we don't have to do a referendum. So, those are some thoughts on that. Gina had mentioned, and I had brought up before, if you look at the northwest corner, that whole expanse of green space right there, screams parking lot to me. But could be a good use of maybe somewhat unusable green space. So if you could look into that. All in all, really happy to see more people coming out today. Really pleased with all the comments and questions that I've received, and I know some of the other trustees have received in the last few weeks. So I think we're making good progress towards it. Thank you for everybody's participation, and thank you staff for being on top of all this. So thanks.
Thank you.
Trustee Colter, just to comment on the Jefferson Pool. Back several years ago, when Williams did their evaluations of both pools, they listed all the deficiencies. So that's part of that evaluation. So we can go and visit that, and there are numbers, costs, but that was probably, I forget when 2017 maybe.
So we would have
was that the
upgrade
17 or
those
the 13 study?
No, 13 was the. Yeah, it could have been. It
might
could have been 13.
Yeah,
You're right.
I thought I brought it with me.
So
but
what we could do is highlight those elements and put a listing down of kind of potential improvements over time. Call it necessary repairs here and now,
Right.
which a lot of them have been done per your direction already. Some of them anyway. Some of the what I call immediate care items. But we could look at some kind of phasing items as well, and what makes sense, right, from a feasibility perspective, because. True transparency, if you look at that memo, you could see that 60-year pool, you're at useful life, you're beyond useful life. So, I mean, how much do you want to put towards that? It's a delicate balance, and
Sure.
I think we'll need to evaluate that as well.
Yeah, I think that study was 2013, and
Yeah.
since then you've done a lot of good improvements with
Yeah.
that, with the water slide, with the pool liner.
Yeah, gel coating
some
the slides,
Gel
things like
coating,
that.
some work on the deck, some work on the bathhouse over
Right.
there. So
So we could, those are good comments, we can
Yeah.
look at that. And then, by the way, like everybody has said, that this is an evolution of design. I mean, right, there are options within options, there's refinement. It's really about what direction we want to go in. What site do we want to land at? It's not about finding this design and landing with design and making it concrete. Does it have the genesis? Does it have the basic ingredients such that we can evolve something that makes sense over time once the green light is given, and abide by the IDNR grant? So
sure.
If you look at our earlier memos that have been passed out, this is all achievable. And as I pointed out before, this would be part of a public transparency process as well as we evolve that.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, come on up. Thank you.
Sat in the front row, had I known you'd go first. I'm Christy Klein. I've been in Villa Park for 70 years, live on Ardmore, next to the church that's doing construction, so I can appreciate the people that are going to live through all these construction areas. Believe me, it will be loud for a long time. But I'm also a Villa Park Lion. I'm pretty sure the trustees probably got the email I sent them regarding the acquisition of the property of Lions Field, that the club had given it to the village for use as a park or recreation facility forever. So I'm glad to see the apartment complex is off the table because it doesn't belong there. The Lions Club would love to have a new rec facility there. I'm not sure about, in this environment that we live in, that an outdoor pool is useful about 2 months of the year. So why would we even be thinking about it? I understand the use maybe for an indoor pool. I know Elmhurst has a facility that has the track and the workout and an indoor pool at the bottom. It's very crowded. I quit going there because I was getting run over by kids on the track. But we fully support having a new rec center built. The only caveat I have is that please put storage space in for the lion storage like we have at Wildwood on the first floor, because most of our members are over 70 years old and it's hard to get stuff in and out. So if you could please just put a little storage place for us, we'd appreciate it. And I will be going to the Park and Rec meeting too, but we really appreciate that you've taken that apartment building off the list. The other thing was, we like to have as much green space as possible, and I don't know that I call parking green space, just so you're aware. But I do like the idea of the Jefferson Park being maybe refurbished as the aquatic facility, because now you've at least separated all the traffic and stuff that goes back and forth to two different places instead of all being concentrated in one small area that does not have a lot of space for any of that. I mean, it's already crowded on Villa. But anyway, that's all I got to say.
Good comments.
Thank you, Christy. Anyone back here? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Kate Nichols. I live on East Division. I've been a resident for nearly 20 years. Love Villa Park, and thank you guys for what you do for us. The design is very exciting. I'm sitting here, I want it all. So it's amazing, it's beautiful. My one comment, I was a little disappointed in the original survey where it seemed to appear that the seniors weren't a big group to be targeting. And I think we're all getting older, I'm getting older, and I think we need a safe, comfortable space for our seniors so they can get out of their houses and socialize and not be alone. And I think that's really important. It was the very first survey and it said the senior was 0.
That's interesting. The statistically valid survey put senior amongst top 4.
So that very...
Yeah, but the dot, actually, I think it was a little overwhelming, honestly, with all those photographs up there, and people were going to their biggest draw, and we feel, based on what you see in the survey, that absolutely in a multi-generational facility, and you're going to call it that, a community center, seniors, listen, I'm getting closer to seniors, so seniors are getting younger each and every day, and the way that people graduate into facilities like these over time as seniors, it's a better kind of experience when you can visit it as youth to mid-youth, and a lot of people come back to the community, and then they basically, move on and graduate with the facility. So we're here to address seniors and go back to the survey findings, not just the survey findings, the program findings by Pros Consulting that was about operation and program opportunities. It clearly called out seniors in there.
And we, with regards to the seniors, we made a little presentation, or the economic development director did, and at one of their lunch and bunch, there was probably 50 seniors there, and they had the same comment. So like the first floor where we have the kitchen, that would be the senior area for the daytime and all their lunch and bunch and birthday bingos, and it's kudos to our senior programmer. I mean, it's really expanding and growing. So yeah, we would definitely have that.
Right, and it goes back to what the First Lady commented on, and I'm sorry I didn't get the name, but at the end there, it's about the program activities, right? There's a space, you call it a space, you call it a multi-purpose, you call it a general program that accommodates a multitude of programs, and you want to get the best utilization out of that space. You want to at least be 65%. The sweet spot's about 80. If you're 100%, you're overutilized. Now you're at each other's elbows and things like that, so that gets to be really tricky. But if you could hit the 65 to 80% utilization, now you're structuring your class, your turnover in a intelligent way, offering as much as you can to the community, knowing you can't be everything to everybody, but you're trying to be what makes sense to the general consensus of everyone in the community. So that goes right back to the preschool piece, right? So it's going to be a delicate balance as we look at space is limited to about 38,000 to 40,000 square feet, which makes sense in a community of this size. That matches up to standards, you know, national standards.
All right, well, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you for your comments.
Hi, Steve Della Rosa, Villa Park resident, and I've been listening to all the proposals. I want to thank everybody for coming out and responding to the first meeting, first public meeting that was had here in this room. But I think something that we need to think about in addition to all the proposals that were given here today is what Vicky had brought up earlier about using Jefferson Pool as another site to house the recreation center / aquatic center. Because since we're going to have to do repairs to that pool to keep it alive, why not use the monies that we would spend to do those repairs and incorporate that into the cost of a $17 million appropriation that the village has? We need to dream big. Villa Park is already dreaming about an underpass at the rail center, at our train station. That's going to come along somewhere down the future. I think $17 million is a gift that we've earned as residents by doing the work to get us to this point where we're thinking about building a new center. And I think that having a spot where we don't have to take away ball fields, where we don't have to compress our green space, gives us an option to put a recreation center in a spot in Villa Park that will help tie the north side of Villa Park into the rest of Villa Park. We're going to have a new development at the train station area that's going to bring in new families into Villa Park. The Aquatic Center at the north side of Villa Park could be very helpful to help to raise the property values of the north side of Villa Park to equal the property values of the south side of Villa Park. The schools north of St. Charles would benefit by having this additional site in their walking distance. It's like we have to go elsewhere to go swimming now in Villa Park for the high school, for Willowbrook. It's like, we need this. We need this aquatic center in Villa Park. But I think with the $17 million, we need to use it really in an impactful way to give us all a good future. That's all I want to say.
Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
So Jennifer Burns, and this is Trustee Kumar in the front that she just forgot to introduce herself. But my big thing is I'm still concerned about parking. As residents are starting to become more aware of recent developments in the village, they really feel like the sale of the property, you basically sold all the parking away. They still do not understand that parking will be available in our downtown area. And I'm sorry, I don't trust, and nobody that I've spoken to, and I'm kind of a doubting Thomas myself, I don't believe that if we're entrusting 100 parking spaces by some private entity, that it'll stay that way. It's too easy for this private entity, for whatever needs, that something has changed or they're going to do maintenance and make it uncomfortable for the village to access those properties, those parking spaces. I'm just really leery having to rely on someone's private generosity to help us out. So anything we can do to help promote that we are okay for parking, because a single swim meet, if you do put an outdoor pool and we expect it to be something that could support a swim team. Easily 200 cars, if not more, for a single event. And that's 3 to 4 hours. Typically, our program has had Wednesday night meets, Saturday morning meets. We'd be done by noon on a Saturday, but we all start driving in around 4:30, 5 o'clock. That is prime dinner time for any of those food and eatery places on Villa there. And I've seen historically how parking creates animosity and a lot of angst. It doesn't help anybody out. So yeah, traffic's a huge concern. As soon as we at the village put the light on Villa and Roosevelt, the dynamics has completely changed. I'm hoping we don't put the underpass at Ardmore there, because I'm really concerned about the direct kind of straight through and with the schools and all the other stuff. I had kind of hoped that the underpass for the railroad tracks would be more on Addison, because we have that natural break of St. Charles to encourage people who are just trying to, drive through our community, avoid us. We definitely need gyms. That's my priority. I know I've got my swimming hat on today. I'm a swim coach. But we need indoor gym space. And that opening faces south, I believe. That's going to get a lot of direct sun, and I'm really concerned about that lobby. I'm hoping right to the community center. It's got the sun as it kind of comes across the sky, right? A lot of direct sun, beautiful glass, love it. I'm hoping there's a lot of tint or something on there. I feel bad for the people who have to sit in that lobby.
We would definitely control the sun with glazing and translucency and fritting of the glass and screens. So.
And just in the glare and that kind of stuff, because you kind of walk into these facilities and it's great for the first 5 minutes, and after a while you're like, do I need my sunglasses on the whole time I'm on my shift?
Yeah.
I really would love to see that improved pool situation. We have clubs and teams that are ready to move in. I just don't know if we can move it fast enough with other pool projects that might be going on. I think staff's done a great job working within the confines that we've had for decades, so I really do appreciate them. Sometimes it does feel lipstick on a pig, but we really have been able to turn some rough pieces into some beautiful gems. And I know that it's really tough to watch other groups' needs being met, and you're told you have to wait a little bit longer on yours, but I'm just hoping, I have to trust the staff that they really are trying to finally give Villa Park something new. We deserve it.
Thank you. I will say this to the site, and I don't know enough about the politics, but I would urge the board to, in our experience, when we work with dedicated parking spots, they're dedicated, and it's in the covenants there. There's no taking it back. So there's nothing to, I guess you could always worry there's no such thing as 100% certainty, but it's right there. And another thing that we do know about the site is it is in a TIF district. So those lend some kind of financial facets to the project that's above and beyond what we are working into the equation, but it has a lot to do with the finances of the village. So just wanted to share that from a transparency perspective. These are all great comments, by the way, and yeah, come on up. I would just say this. We had about 12 people on Zoom, as I saw the numbers. We had a pretty nice audience in here. I don't know how many people are on public broadcast, but from our experience going around the country, you'd think you get 500 people and things like that. That just doesn't happen at public meetings. So the fact that you're all here truly means you're engaged and that you care, and every opinion matters, truly. I mean, we listen to as many people as we can, and we try to work with everybody's comments, knowing again that we can't be everything to everybody, but we're trying to be what we can in terms of these design solutions, in terms of these options, in terms of these considerations to the general public as a whole as represented, and thank you all. So, go ahead.
I think you'll be our last, so go ahead.
Oh, no pressure.
Wrap us up.
Joseph DiTomaso, I'm on North Harvard. Couple of things I thought about. The location is what concerns me the most at this point. But not just for the reasons that many have talked about. I'm also concerned that this isn't going to do anything, number one, to help economic development in an area where at this point, if we go to Lions, we don't need to push economic development. That's already growing. when we start talking about the train station, Jefferson Park area, that can use help in any way we can do it. And that's not something that's really talked about in all these surveys. The other thing, and forgive me if I'm wrong on this, because I don't have small children anymore, so, but this is surrounded pretty much by a commercial area, or an area that you wouldn't want your 8, 9, 10-year-old to walk to this place in Lyons. Whereas Jefferson and Jefferson and Iowa are surrounded by residential almost exclusively. So there's a lot of children, I live right by there, there's a lot of children that walk to the pool, that walk to the community center, where I don't think their parents are going to want them crossing train tracks, St. Charles,
Right.
on their own. So that maybe is another consideration, and I don't know how you could fit this into that area. That's your job, not mine. But it's something I would think about looking into to see where we're at. The other thing is that in doing this, as I just said, you're not really benefiting the residents up in that area because they just don't have to drive 3 more blocks. But you're going to impact the families on the north side by taking Iowa away. And potentially the pool as well. So those are all things I would think about a little bit. The other thing I'd like to know is, what's it going to cost to demo Iowa?
Great question. So when we demoed the Lufkin Pool was 40,000 square feet, and it cost $78,000 to demo the pool and the bathhouses. So we are figuring Iowa's 25,000 square feet. So about off the top, but and you can't hold us to it because we'd have to get quotes. But just as a comparable with Lufkin, with the demo, what Tom's showing is about $125,000 to demo it.
Are we going to have to do asbestos remediation before we demo?
Yep. And that's one of the reasons why when the thought of adding on to Iowa came about, we would have to do asbestos remediation. So that's where all that money, is it feasible to do all that? As far as walking to the pools, and and just on the flip side, when we were demolishing Lufkin Pool, folks on the south side said the same thing. It's dangerous to walk over if we do Jefferson to cross the pool. So it's kind of the flip side. Now it's dangerous to walk to the community center.
And you could make the argument that
Right. Everybody has their opinions. That's right. I just want to show you the flip side.
No, I know. We already have done that to the people around Lufkin. Why are we going to do it to the north side as well, without at least significantly exploring doing this up at Jefferson or Iowa?
Well, and we'd have to do some, just on the site itself, we'd have to probably measure the site. It's not big enough. I mean, we would have, how are we going to provide parking? If we did a community center and potentially a pool, there's not enough rooms, and, we're not certainly, can't talk for the board, but I mean, do you take houses, at eminent domain to make parking? How are those people going to feel? The site is just not big enough to do a community center and then provide parking without finding some other alternatives.
I realize there would probably have to be a creative solution to that, but, I'm just suggesting that that's something that should be looked at, because you're impacting a lot of residents up there. How many residents are going to really benefit by it being here?
Well, when you look at programming, we utilize Willowbrook High School for our basketball programs. They have to go, the folks on the north side have to go to Willowbrook for our basketball programs. So, I mean, Villa Park is a small community. They'll travel to Willowbrook, they'll travel to Lions Park.
But I see the kids walking by my house every day.
Right.
Even in the wintertime, they walk by my house to go to Iowa. Right. I see them.
All right.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that's it for public comments, and I do want to thank everyone for coming. Greg, you want to take it?
Yep. Go ahead. Lauren? No, I was just going to close up.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to reiterate, please get your comment cards in. Again, we will have this presentation uploaded to the website along with the editable comment cards, which include the 4 boxes for the options shown, as well as an other box. If you want a different combination, please include it in the other box. We want to hear what you want. We just gave an example of the most popular ones. We were hearing from your feedback. And also locations. This is a location slide. It wasn't mentioned much in the comments from last time, but the more information, the better. The more we can give you what you want.
It was mentioned, but Jefferson Pool wasn't highlighted. Lions Park was more highlighted. So, yeah, please put your comments there, and thank you.
And with that, we do have our next meeting is Wednesday, January 19th at 7. Right here, same presentation. I think you'll upgrade, you update you won't update All right. So, and then hopefully by January 24th, Williams will put together all that information and make a presentation to the full board at the January 24th board meeting. Potentially, the worst case scenario, we have to do it in the first meeting in February. So thank you everybody for coming out and giving us your comments. They're all very much appreciated. And have a wonderful Saturday.
Thank you.
You're the one I need to get the
Right.